So I sang the line, "It's 5 o'clock on a Saturday," and was told the line from Billy Joel's Piano Man is, "It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday." That is true, but I was not singing Piano Man by Billy Joel. I was singing Keyboard Guy by Bobby Jake. All right, so we had a monologue joke. There was a story in the news about a python eating an alligator that happened in, it happened? Python ate an alligator. It happened in one of the 50 states. It was a southern state, right? Oh, it was Florida. The punchline was a python eating an alligator, or what's also known as a Florida turducken. Now, people were upset because a turducken is 3 elements: turkey, duck, chicken, whereas a python eating an alligator is only 2. We forgot to mention that when they cut the alligator open, he had a little bit of meth in him. So you can call it a Florida turducken or a pyalameth. And which is important to know, because if you're ever in Florida, do not refer to yourself as a polymath, because it sounds too close to pyalameth. You can get in trouble. If you're down in Florida and you're being all braggy about yourself, you're like, "Oh, I consider myself a bit of a Renaissance man." You could say a polymath, and someone's like, "Hey, Cletus, this feller fancies he can eat a whole alligator." And then, in general, if you're a polymath, don't say it. Let other people say it. Ooh, Monday we had a joke about a turkey with a knife. And someone said, we were informed the turkey would hold a knife in its foot, its claw, not its wing, but it couldn't hold the knife in its claw, because that's where it holds its gun. The turknife gun. This is fascinating to me. It's pronounced gala if it's a noun, meaning a party. It's pronounced gala if it's an adjective describing a party, a gala affair. And if it's a party with legal gambling and prostitution, it's pronounced Nevada. I was told I held the Maryland state flag upside down. This is how I held it last week. As you can see, that is an eyesore. But this, oh yeah, beauty, beauty. I also think this is the only state flag that's also a magic eye poster. If you stare at it long enough, you see, like, Maryland celebrities. Stringer Bell. Audience is still split on tank top week. Some people thought that when I wore my tank top, I looked scrawny. One person said my arms look so good it made them self-conscious. Again, we can decide. Let's take a look. I don't... No, I think it's fine. I think it's like average arms. I think it's average arms for a late night talk show host. So, we joked, we talked about a guy wearing a stovepipe hat and how you could fit an entire week's worth of pizza under the hat. And someone said that's not enough pizza for a week. It is if you intermittent fast. If you don't know, intermittent fasting is a diet that also doesn't work. We've been talking about the supermarket chain, Aldi. And it just occurred to me today, right? I'm working on this, my corrections afternoon, and it occurred to me how funny it would be if Snoop Dogg had like a partnership with Aldi, and you know, through Snoop Dogg, they would offer Aldi's pretzels, Aldi's chips, and Aldi's nuts. Pretty proud of it. Shoemaker and I share a wall. If you're wondering, that's why at 10 a.m. you heard me scream Eureka. But guys, I do this sometimes. I come up with a thing and I worry I might not be the first guy who came up with all these nuts. And sure enough, I took a look and the youth of today had me beat. It was not by a long shot did I get to all these nuts first. So that is a joke that left the station years ago. And because of that, it's not like I was going to waste Tara's time and have her make a graphic. That would have looked probably something like that. If Donald Trump had fallen into a lake, we talked about you would not be able to get him out with a pool scoop. You would need a winch. Shout out to all the jackals who wrote that if they couldn't find a winch, that a panicked Donald Trump would probably insist they go looking for one and would scream, winch hunt. There are no lawns in Japan. I don't know what joke I made that implied there were, but a lot of you told me there aren't. Apologies. The French Revolution happened in the 18th century, not the 19th century. A lot of you were really mad about us getting that wrong. But guys, you could still feel the repercussions in the 19th century, okay? You don't have a revolution and then just move on. Because it's awkward for a long, because you have to then live together. You know, you'll see people, les poussins, that you know, that you were on, and you're like, oh, you look familiar. Did I perhaps see you through a wall of stacked up furniture? They stacked up a lot. They said of all armed conflicts, French Revolution had the most walls of stacked up furniture. Hey guys, we've been talking about Frankenstein, and based on some of the plot details I discussed last week, many of you jumped to the conclusions that I have never read the book by Mary Shelley, and I've only seen the 1931 horror movie. That is not true. I did read the book, but I went back and I dug up my copy of the book, and I realized what happened. I read this version. Speaking of, someone wrote about Frankenstein, the villagers ostracized and persecuted a sensitive soul purely because he was different, and their behavior cannot be excused. Sort of like what Seth does with Wally. I would say Frankenstein does remind me of Wally in that once we started putting Wally on camera, we created a monster. Sometimes there's a comment so succinctly written that I just want to share it with you. Somebody wrote, Seth clearly knows nothing about the moon. You got me. I don't know a thing about the moon, and here's why. Everything you learn about it ruins the magic. Talk to a moon scientist, and they'll ruin everything. There's no man in it, it's not made of cheese. It's round, okay. And then how come I can draw it on a piece of paper? I want to be the first. You never hear of flat mooners. I'm going to be a flat mooner. Yeah, I did my own research. Are flat earthers flat mooners too? It would be so weird if they were like full on, they were good with the moon being round. I don't know. The earth is flat. What about the moon? I'm not crazy. Come on, dude. I did get waxing and waning exactly backwards. Waxing means getting bigger. Waning means getting smaller. Wax on, wane off. That was the right way. Do you want to do Miyagi? Might be a fun way for everybody to see you on camera the first time. Shoemaker. You're in the costume. All right. I wrote a joke about Superman going into a bank and then coming out with his underpants pulled over his head by the bank robbers. In my mind, if you pulled underpants over someone's head, they would come down, you know, like you pull it down. This is what graphics came up with. Just a kick-ass hat. Just like a kryptonite-proof bike helmet. So again, shame on me, roll down to graphics. And I'm like, is that what you think Superman's underpants look like? And of course, they're all like, what do you think they look like? Weirdos. All right, I want to come clean about, well, first of all, you know, we're aware of the Jackal mug, very popular in the merch. Someone sent me this. They just made this. Don't make better mugs than us. But here's the thing. I said we're going to do a sweepstakes because I feel bad for our foreign viewers, foreign jackals who can't order the mugs online because NBC doesn't ship to other countries because they just don't want to monetize it. I say, don't you want to monetize it? And they say, it's art. So anyway, I said, hey, everybody from overseas, send in a postcard, and then I'll draw one out, sweepstakes, right? And we'll send one lucky foreign jackal who's going to get a mug. And so anyway, I didn't check with anyone when I did this. I don't run corrections by anybody. And for the last month since I've done that, I've been having tons of meetings with NBC's legal department, hours a day. And then yesterday they said, here's the deal. Anyone who sent in a postcard, you have to send a mug to. And I said, how did this take a month? And they said, we wanted to bill you a bunch. So anyways, now, by the way, windows closed, pals. Postmark yesterday. So long story short, if you're an international viewer and we can read your handwriting, we saved them all, and you were gonna get a mug, okay? Congratulations, you broke the code or whatever. Just know to fill an order this large, while you're laughing it up, everyone in the mug factory has to work on Christmas. Not that you jackals would care. But you know what? I also want to stress something. It's my mistake, mea culpa, I should have checked. Not gonna make NBC pay for this. I will pay for the mugs out of my own pocket. I'm gonna do that. Shoemaker, hold me to it. But you know what? So I'm gonna pay for the mugs. But you know what? I'm also gonna use, however much I pay for the mugs, I'm gonna use whatever it costs, I'm gonna take that same amount of money and I'm gonna get something fun for me. You know what I mean? Because I think I also deserve something fun. Hey, Annie. Yeah, just corrections and then, nope. I can't get something fun? No, I know, but, well, what would you spend it on? Yeah, but them going to college isn't fun for me. Well, congratulations to all our jackals out there. We are gonna send them via the cheapest possible shipping option. And have a very happy Thanksgiving, everybody. You will see me in 2 weeks.